Okay, so OS module, it provides a portable way, or a way to access operating system dependent functionality. Okay, for example, you have lot of methods that are available, like capturing the OS name, okay, or reading some files, working on them. Okay, all those things are provided by OS module. Now OS module is required for us because when we develop data science scripts, we need to, irrespective of the what operating system is running, we should be able to use this module to fetch our files, or to write some files, or to access some paths, etc. Okay, so for all those things we need this. So let's start with the simplest one. If I type os dot name, since I'm running Windows operating system, Windows operating system start with NT. Okay, um, so if you just do a quick search, uh, NT. Okay, why it is called as NT? So initially when Windows started, they started with this naming convention only. Okay, NT. There was nothing called year. So there was nothing called 2000. Okay, 2003. So all those things were not there. It started with NT. So as you can see here, Windows NT is a group of family of products. So wherever you see NT, it means that it is Windows operating system, or you will see Linux also in case if you run it. Okay, the next thing is, for us, if you want to see what is your current working directory. Okay, if you want to handle things programmatically, let's just say you want to read some files, you need to know what folder you are in, what folder the file is in. Okay, basis on that, um, you should be able to accordingly pass these methods. Okay, so for this reason we have get current working directory. Likewise, we also have our own way of handling operating systems errors. Okay, so operating system offers us a its own way of offering the error. So if you check what does OS error consist of. Okay, directory of, if you run os dot error. Okay, it has its own different errors. Okay, error number, for example, Windows error, str error. Okay, these these sort of error mechanisms are provided, which are not present in file handling and exception handling has different sort of errors, but this one has completely different list of error messages. Okay. Okay, the next thing is, for us, let's just say you want to make a directory os dot. First what I will do is, I will simply type os dot make directories, dirs. Okay, so I will use the current folder. Dot means current folder, two dots means two folders above. Okay, here if I type in the current folder, I want to create a folder. Okay, demo folder, I will give the name as demo folder. And if you notice, my bad, I think I passed this incorrectly. Okay, so if you notice, demo folder came into picture. Let's just say you want to save certain CSV files in certain folder. First you have to make that folder, and then you will have to save, write your saving logic. Okay, so make directory is used to make the directories what you see here. And likewise, if you want to check if there is any existing directory, for that os dot, for that if you want to check any existing directory, for that we have something called path. Os dot path and is directory, does this directory exist, that's what we are asking. For example, if I type dot slash, I'm asking the module check whether there is current directory. It exists because that's where we are operating, right? In that current directory, do you want to check if there is any demo folder? Okay, that also exists. Now if I want to check inside the demo folder, check if there is any file.txt. Actually there is no such file, so that's why it returns false. Okay, so there is no such file, right? That's why it returns false. So path dot is directory is used to check if there is any directories. And likewise, make directories are used to create a directory. And you also have os dot rm directory, remove directory. Okay, remove directory means it will go on to remove the demo folder. Okay, so if I execute c, it disappeared. So this way, programmatically, you can handle various tasks of operating system. Okay, is this clear? Any doubt? Ashwin, you joined late. We just started. Okay, so any doubt,
Okay, sir.
you can ask me here in this part.
Okay.
So get current.
That OS error, what is that use of that OS error?
Yes,
Plugin?
in case you want to handle any errors related to operating system. Okay, for example, you have windows error. Let's just say you want to write some logic wherein which you are going to access certain file. Okay, let me try that. So let's just say there is a file called gfg.txt. Okay, some random name I have taken. And if I want to open that file of file is equal to open of. Okay, open of this fd. Okay, if I open in w mode, it will open, but if I open in r mode, it may not open. Okay, because file not found error is coming, right? So let's just say I want to open a file, but using operating systems, I want to hand pass this error as not this but rather operating systems error. So how would I do that? I would try first. Okay, and then accept os. Okay, accept os error as error print file cannot be opened. Okay, you see. So if you want to make use of these operating system errors, you can use those. Okay, but if you want to know exactly what they are used for, that also I can show you. 1 second. Okay, so in this operating system errors, you have blocking error, blocking io error. If you want to read while reading from certain streaming devices, or any keyboard. Okay, or any input devices, input output devices, if you're getting errors, you can make use of those errors. You can make use of child processing error, connection error, file exists error, file not exists error, interrupted error. So all these errors can be utilized within os dot error. Okay, you can pass those here. These errors are slightly different from what your module provides, exception handling module provides. Okay, just the different set of errors basically related to operating system only. That's what the thing is here. Is this clear? And
Yes.
yeah, and when you create a file, right, let's just say you made a directory. Okay, you want to also rename it, then you have os dot rename. Okay, source destination. Okay, source is your demo underscore folder, and then destination is your same demo1 underscore folder. Okay, you see, demo became demo1 folder. Is this clear? I mean, simple basic operations. In order to handle all of those, we make use of os module. Okay, there are a lot many more. You don't need those at this point of time. Okay, as and when we'll go each and every, we'll work on all of these as and when we work on operating system based functions. When we want to use them, we will learn more about them, but for now, just understand that there exists something called os module, using which you can do operating system related tasks, okay, directly using python. If this is clear, then we can move on to another very important topic. Okay, sqlite module.
So the one doubt
Yes,
here, if we want to move the file to this demo one folder, is
from
there
one file
any?
to, yes, yes, that also you can do. All you have to do is just change the path. Okay, so let me show you that also. So you have something called cd. Okay, one second, let me look at the methods available. Put env is different. chdir, yeah, that is the one. Okay, so change directory chdir. So if you specify, if you want to use, change the current working directory to specify directory. So you can change your current working directory, but you are talking about moving a file from one directory to another directory, correct?
Ah, yes, sir.
Okay, one moment, let me check. Okay, so you can do that using shutil source. Let me try to move this file.txt, and the destination would be demo1 underscore folder. Okay, so what I am trying to do is, I'm just trying to list all the files in the source, and for fin files, okay, they are running as a path, iterative path, but I will run it directly. So I don't want to list, I just want to move. Okay, for this what I will do is, I will simply take this shutil dot move. I'll provide the source and I'll provide the destination. Okay, this file is not found because there is a additional dot, right? I will remove this. No such file or directory, but it exists here only, no? Oh yeah, because we changed the current working directory. We changed the current working directory to this. Let me change the current working directory to back to dot current working directory to be um, afternoon batch. Okay, dot you have to specify in order to move one step above. Okay, so once you have the current working directory, now it is found. Now if you see file.txt is not there, if you open this, you have file.txt. Okay, did you understand? You don't need this because they are doing multiple.
Yeah, yes, okay.
So you can do that. You don't have that functionality in OS for moving the files, but you can do it using shutil. Okay. uh, Shell utils, shell as in bash shell, linux utils. Okay, linux utilities, for that they have named as shutil. So this way you can move. Any other doubt? Okay.
No,
All
no,
right,
sir.
so let's move on to the most important, one of the most important modules. Okay, this module, sqlite3, is very very important, so that you can go ahead and read the data from databases. And again we will revisit these uh, modules later on. This is only to lay the foundation on the module part. Okay, let me import sqlite3. sqlite3 is a module to access databases. We will see the basics of sqlite3, but sqlite3 itself has too many things. Okay, it has a way to handle date, cursor, connection, blob. Lot of things are there. uh, Limits, okay, read only, warnings, so lot of things are there. But we will only be laying the foundation, which means we will only look at the basics on how to um, establish a connection. Now, before connecting to a database, you have to have four different important points, four different important steps. The way how you will connect to database is, first you will set up the connection. Okay. Second, you will create a cursor that talks to that connection. Okay. And third one is you will execute a query, and the fourth one is you will commit and close. Commit means, if commit means making whatever the execution, whatever the query you have written, making those changes permanent, and closing. If it is, see, you have lot of different types of commands, right? You have create command. Okay, you have insert command, you have update command. So all this requires some change to be made as permanent on the database. Hence you will make all these options, okay, as committed, and then you will close. If you are doing a select only operation, then you don't need to commit, because you are only reading that data. Here you are updating or modifying the data. Hence you need to commit to make your changes reflect on the database, and you will close. Let's look at how to commit in the first place. Create a table first. Okay, so I will start with the connection part. Connection is equal to sqlite3 dot. For this, in order to connect to a database, yes, it offers something called connect method. In the connect method, you have to specify the name of the database. Once you specify the name of the database, okay, then you will have to create your cursor. Cursor is nothing but your pointer that will point to the start of the database. Okay, that is what cursor is. And the third thing is, after this, with that cursor pointing at a particular place, you have to execute your query. Now first, my first query is, I will say create table, and I will call the table name as stocks. And in that stocks, I'm saying create a date column, okay, which has to hold text information. Again, create some trans column that has to hold text, and again create a symbol that has to hold text, and then create a quantity that has to hold text. Okay, and then create a price that has to hold a real value, real or float value. Okay, and then finally, then you, after you execute that query, okay, you can go on to execute another query before you close the connection. So what I'm saying is, I will execute two queries in one go. After creation of table, I'm also saying insert values. Okay, insert insert into table name. What do you need to insert? Your values, and values should be in the same amount of length. Okay, for example, date, I want to add today's date, 2024 dash, let's just say 08 dash 24. That is our today's date, and comma, what transaction was done? Buy transaction was done. This is just an example. Okay, and what currency was used? INR was used. And how much amount was used? 1,000 rupees was used. And what is the price of the stock? 35.14 rupees. After inserting these values, I want to commit the changes, connection dot commit. Okay, and then finally I want to close the connection. So these four steps are mandatory for any database execution. These four steps are the same for all the databases that exist. Now once I do that, you will immediately notice something called example.db got created. Now if you want to see what that db has, I have already installed sqlite, I believe. Let me open and see what that was. It's called as sqlite base browser. Okay, so if I run this browser, okay, and if I go on to open the database, and our database is in uh, documents. Okay, documents. Okay, python class afternoon batch example.db. If I open this, immediately you will be able to notice, okay, we ran the stocks, and we are able to see the schema, which is your create table schema, and the type of values you are able to see. And you can also browse the data. If you browse the data, you will be able to see what each one of them value looks like. Okay, so this is just a simple sqlite browser viewer software, okay, which you can directly go to sqlite and download. Okay, and this is how you can view the data in the database. But if you want to visualize the data here from python itself, that also you can do. Because I have committed the connection, closed the connection, if I want to read again, I'll have to establish the connection, fetching the data from sqlite3. Okay, so what I will do is, again I will type connection is equal to sqlite3 dot connect of database example.db, that is our database. And to that database, we will have to have a cursor, connection dot cursor. Okay, and this will automatically point at the beginning of the data. And then to that cursor we have to execute a command, and that this time our command is going to be select query, which is select star from stocks. Okay, that is what we have created, right? And after you select, right, you have to print it. Now printing, either you can run a for loop for row in cursor. Okay, you can print row, this is one way. Okay, or the other way is, again you, I can't okay, let me close the connection. Okay, or I can do something like dot fetch many. And how many do you want to fetch? That size you can specify. Let's just say size is equal to 10 transactions I want to fetch. You can't fetch simply because the cursor has moved to the second row and there is no second row. Okay, that's why we prefer to close the connections. Okay, here what I'll do is I will close the connection first and then re-establish to read it, because I don't want to. Okay, I have closed the connection. My Now I will re-establish the connection, and this time I will run the fetch many or fetch one. Okay, either way it's same. And let me see, I will close the connection later, but okay. So if I run many, how many rows? It will try to run on 10 transactions, but there is only one transaction, so it will stop at one. This is okay. Let me close the connection. Okay, so this is one way. Another way is you can also do fetch all. If you do fetch all, okay, fetch all doesn't take the argument. Fetch all means it will fetch everything. Okay, so remember to close the connection after you establish, after you do finish your operation, simply because as a good habit, because you don't want to lock the database. If someone else also using, you are also establishing the connection, and then the database will get locked. Someone has to unlock it, maybe the administrator. Okay, we also have fetch one method. Fetch one for fetching one transaction, fetch many for a specified number of transactions, and fetch all for all transactions. Okay, just as a good habit, you just practice writing the code this way. Okay, for each every time you close the connection. Okay, this is fine, but when you are working in a corporate, you will have to write much better way of opening the databases. For any database, you what you will do is you will check the connection first. Check if database is available for connection. That you have to write this as, you have to develop this habit of writing create connection methods first. Create connection function you will write, wherein which you will specify some database, and to that database you have to check the connection. So first I will write connection is equal to none. Initially I'm assuming there is no connection. Okay, and then I'm trying to write a function wherein which I will test, um, why is it not, the cursor is not moving. Okay, okay, this is fine. Okay, fine, anyway. So try, what I'm saying is connection is equal to sqlite3 dot connect of your database. You're trying to connect to the database, supplied database. Okay, and after you establish, what I'm trying to do is print the version sqlite3 dot version. Okay, so let's just establish the connection to the database and print the, if upon successful connection we are printing the version, except this we have already seen error as e, and print the error. Okay, finally after you have checked, finally what you need to do is, if connection exists, if connection, somehow the connection got established but resulted in some error, then you have to close that connection. Did you understand this logic? So this is our, and if I call this create connection of example db. Okay, I think I have made syntax mistake. Okay, now you can see, you can get the version info. So the point I'm trying to make is, when you are working on accessing huge amount of data from databases or your data lakes or data warehouses, okay, it is always important Okay, to check if a connection is available. Create connection method is important to check if the database is open for providing you the information that you are seeking. Okay, is this understood? Up until this point, have you understood?
Yes, sir.
See, we are still not going in depth. This is just to lay
Yes.
some idea foundation, so that when I talk about SQL, when I take a SQL class, you should have idea on what I'm talking about. Okay, that's why I'm just showing you few things that you may need in future. Okay, so if this is
Okay.
clear,
Okay.
then we can write our next function. After you create the connection, right, you can write a, likewise you have to write everything as functions only. You can write create table function, create underscore table of, let's just say connection, comma query. I'll just say query. Okay, here also you're try to see if you can establish a cursor to the connection. Okay, um, connection dot cursor, basically you are creating a cursor and executing on top of, with that cursor you are executing certain query which you have already passed above. Okay, except error as e, if in case you are not able to run that query, you have to execute, um, return the, print the error basically. And now if I call this create table and connection, I have already established. Okay, so connection is this connection. Okay, here we are finally closing also. Okay, fine, no worries, I will show you anyway. So I will write main function. Why? Because I can only execute function, two different functions inside a um, database. Let's just say database is equal to dot slash example dot db. Okay, now what I'm saying is query. My query is equal to, I'm saying create table if not exists. So if not exists means only if it exists it won't create. If it doesn't exist it will create. And within this you have to create id, which is my integer. Okay, which also happens to be a primary key. Primary key is a unique key, identifier key, using which you can identify each and every row of that particular table. Okay, so that is what primary key means. You can look up the definitions. So name, again I'm creating, name is text which is not null, and then let's just say we can add begin date, which also happens to be a text, and end date, which also happens to be a text. So many things I'm writing inside the query, and I will end it with a colon. Okay, this is my query. Now if I want to execute this query within the main function, first I have to type connection is equal to create connection, which I have already written outside of database. Okay, and database also I'm passing above here. Okay, so that's why I'll just type database. Okay, and now I'm saying if connection is not none. Initially I'm assuming it to be none. Okay, I'm saying if the connection hasn't happened already, then you first create table. Create table has to take connection and the query that we have passed. Else print cannot establish connection. Okay, so this is our main function, and now if I call our name function as our main function, okay, it's not able to establish the connection. Okay, simply because maybe this is in one cell, this is in another cell. Okay, uh, let me combine all of these in one single cell. So I will take this, put it here, put it here. This is our one function. Second function is, this is another one. Okay, and third one is main function. And this is our another function. Now the control starts from here. This I will explain what this is, but the control directly starts here because all these are function definitions. There is nothing to execute there. It starts here, and then immediately function main function is called, hence the control goes here. Okay, database name is taken, query is taken, connection is equal to create connection of database. So this database, it's trying to create a connection. Now when it tries to create the connection, immediately the control goes here. It takes the database name. Database is already defined inside the main function, hence the variables are local, right? So that means if database is defined inside main, it is also available to create connection. So create connection takes the database value. Initially it assumes to be none, and to that connection it creates a database and then prints the version, except it raises, finally it closes the connection. Okay, after this is done, okay, then we are checking if the connection is not none, then you create table. Okay, if you create a table with the connection query, um, you can, I think, remove the finally part because that's closing the connection. Okay, but anyway, so we'll test first. So then it will create a table by running this query on that connection. Again, connection is coming from here, and I'm not returning any connection. Print SQL version, instead of print SQL version, I have to type return connection. Okay, I will return the connection. Once this returns the connection, that connection is taken here and query is executed finally. Okay, let me see, name error is not defined. Okay, it's going to accept clause. Accept error as name error is not defined. Okay, so or I will do one thing, accept is it not defined. Okay, fine. Accept, it's not going to create table, that is okay, create table of connection print. The control is create coming from create table, and then okay, let's simplify a little bit. Okay, except I need to catch this exception. Okay, so we need to check what were the exceptions for databases, right? So we, in the built-in We had connection abort error. Connection abort error. Okay, except let me change this to connection um, refused error. Okay, now you should get cannot operate on a closed database. Yes, that's the thing. So this part is causing the trouble, so because it's finally closing the connection. Okay, now if you execute, the connection is not closed, uh, but we need to check, verify whether it is really inserted the table. That you can do using our this. Let me browse the data. Okay, let me exit and reopen. Okay, now you see projects also there. Okay, projects has been inserted. uh, this is a portable version, maybe that's why it doesn't refresh automatically. Let me check if there is such option. Okay, anyway, so you can see, now you if you want to browse the data, you have to select first what to browse. So if I select projects, browse the data. Okay, that only has the table, that doesn't have any values, hence you're seeing it as empty here, but you are able to see the table names, the column names. Okay, this way you can write your functions um, when you work as a data analyst or data scientist. This is how you need to build up your logic. Okay, for each thing you have to write a function wherein which it checks the connection, and then it if you want to create a table, you have to have a separate uh, function for creation of table, separate function for insertion of values, that way. And you need to know how to catch the exceptions, this one. Okay, so just be mindful of this. If you don't know what to put there, if you don't know what to put here, just leave it as is, except, I say. Okay, just write except and leave it, because let the interpreter figure out what type of error it is. You don't break your head, because here I know it is a connection refused or connection established error, something like that. I was able to add it here. Is this clear? This is how sqlite3 will help you in accessing the data from the database. Okay,
Okay.
likewise you can write all your separate functions, but I want to stop it here, because this is just to give you some basic understanding of how to write the functions for accessing the data.